Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I created my Time With You layout. So for this layout, I am using Ali Edwards Digital May Kit. And so I wanted to show you how I'm doing that in Photoshop because primarily this layout was created in Photoshop. Now I do print it out and finish it off at my desk. I haven't yet decided if I'm going to add that footage at the end or not, just because it's basically, like cutting and pasting, but I may. So look forward to that if you do. If not, like I said, most of what I'm doing here is in Photoshop. So I've pulled out the photo that I want to use for this layout, and there's a couple things that I thought about when I was looking for a photo. Number one that would obviously go with my journaling, and number two, a photo that would work with the technique that I want to use or create. And this technique needs a lot of white space. So whether it be white or whether it be black, or maybe like a darker color that's kind of faded out, whatever it is, for this technique, I think it's better on something like this that's not busy. Definitely a busy photo would be hard to kind of get this technique across, but you could definitely do it. I would try it out if it's something that you are interested in. So like I said, the first thing that I did is I pulled over my photo into Photoshop. So this actually is something that I exported right from Lightroom. And that's what's really another thing that I love so much about Lightroom is Lightroom and Photoshop talk to one another. So I could just hit in Lightroom Command or Control E, and it's going to automatically just export my photo right into Photoshop, and whatever changes I make, and when I hit save in Photoshop, it's going to automatically save those changes into Lightroom, and that photo is going to be waiting for me in Lightroom. So I love that about Lightroom. Another thing to keep in mind with this photo is I made all the edits in Lightroom and then I just pulled it over into Photoshop. So like I said, another thing that I really love about those two pieces of software together is that they can communicate. So the first thing that I want to do with this photo is I want to change the dimensions to a 6x8. So there's a couple things I could do here. I could just go ahead and crop this image to a 6x8 and do it that way, or I could create a new file, which is what I want to do because I don't want to accidentally save this image as a 6x8. I just want to leave this image as is. So I'm going to come over here to File and New. You could also do Command or Control N. I have a custom 6x8 dimension file already set up, but if you do not, you can just go ahead and create one with the 6x8, making sure the resolution is at 300. You can choose to keep it transparent, or I think this would be fine to do black and white. Either way, it's not that big of a deal. It's totally your preference. The other thing is if you are using an older version of Photoshop and you're create a new file, dialog box does not look like this. Just do it the way that you have always done it. Just make sure the dimensions are 6x8 and hit create. So now I've got my 6x8 file. I'm going to come back to my image and I'm going to hit Control or Command A to go ahead and select my entire image. Then I'm going to hit Control or Command C to copy that image. Now I'm going to come back over to our file and hit Control or Command V to paste that image. Now you can see that I can move this image around and crop it however I want. You can also see that I have a little section at the bottom that is not fitting just because of the dimensions of the image. This image is large enough that I can make it bigger. So I'm going to hit Control or Command T and it's bringing up my my transform box. So I'm going to come here to the corner and I'm going to make sure I hit the shift and I drag out so that I keep the proportions of my image. If I don't hit shift, then I'm going to change the proportions of my image. And obviously I do not want to do that. And I'm going to hit Command or Control Z to exit out of that. If you do have Photoshop elements and you're using Photoshop elements, you do not have to hit the shift key down for that. Just keep that in mind. Then I'm going to hit enter where once I've got it to the length that I want. And now I'm just going to move it over to kind of crop it where I like the best crop. So that looks great to me. So now I'm going to move on to the type that I want to add in. So in Ali's files, Let me see if I can pull over this. In her journal, journaling cards that is included in this kit, I was really inspired by this card that says time with you. And I loved the repeating. I loved the type. I loved that it was italicized and that it repeated. The colors are fun too, but that's not really the look that I was going for. But I loved the idea of this repeat, which is, like I said, one of the reasons why, excuse me, I'm gonna exit out of that and just move this aside. One of the reasons why I chose this image, so that there was a lot of space that I could do a repeat of something. And I'm gonna come over here. Now, let me just say one more thing. In this file, in Allie's file, she actually does have a stamp that is time with you, but if she didn't, and this is all that I had to work with, I would just isolate all of these letters using the magic wand tool, isolate all these letters, and then I could use those individually. So I just wanted you to understand that you have that option in case you're using some other files that maybe you are limited to, and you don't necessarily have you don't necessarily have like a stamped version of this. So I'm going to come over here to these files, to the stamped versions. You can see I've got the stamped time with you there. I'm going to move this off to the side and just drag and drop right on to my photo there. And you can see that I've got this bounding box. I don't think I'm going to make it any bigger. I'm just going to pull it down to the bottom here. So I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So again, since I've got this bounding box, I'm just going to hold down the shift key and pull it just ever so slightly, make it a little bit bigger, and then hit enter. And I'm going to pull this type all the way down to the bottom. Now what I want to do is I want to repeat this type. So I'm going to click on Option or click on Alt. So there's a lot of ways you could do it. You could actually, copy and paste over and over again with like Command C, Command V. You could just keep hitting Command V. I just like to hold down the Alt, and you can see when I hold down the Alt and I hover, it's got the two arrows, the black and the white. That's going to indicate that I'm going to be copying this image or this file here. So it's Alt or Option that I'm holding down. You can see actually what ended up moving was my photo, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to delete that copy that I just made, and I'm going to make sure that I click on this lock so I can lock this layer, and I can make sure and copy without copying that photo. So make sure you are highlighted or you are selected onto this file or onto the text. Hit Option or Alt, and I'm just going to, and again, it's got the photo. After I locked it, I'm not really sure why it's doing that, but I'm just going to keep, copying this file till I feel like I have enough. Maybe one more. And let's see. I'm going to pull it down just a little bit with the arrows, so maybe right there is good. Now you can see that some are on top of each other. There's totally different spaces. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to highlight the top one, then go down to the bottom one, hit Shift and click. And then I'm going to come up here to my Align tools, and I'm going to click on this. I don't know which one this is called, but I'm going to click on it, and it's going to distribute these evenly as long as I have the top where I want it and the bottom where I want it. So I'm going to click, and you can see now that it has moved everything where I want it. But they're not all aligned on this one side. So I want them to be aligned center. So I'm just going to hit Align Center. Now, it's not aligned center with the artboard because I actually just had it align center just these that I have highlighted. Now, if I were to include the photo in this, it's going to align center to the whole photo, because you remember if I hit Command or Control T, sorry, I need to be on the photo. You can see, I've got it locked, sorry, Command or Control T. You can see that then all of these, all this text would align to the entire photo. and not necessarily with the artboard. So you'd have to select artboard, and I'm going to hit enter just to stop that, and then I'm going to lock this once again. I don't see an option here to align to the artboard, and I know there's a way to do it. I know there's a way to do it, but I'm not going to try and figure it out now. I thought it used to be up there before the update, but like I said, not going to worry about it right now. I'm just going to use my arrow keys, making sure that I have all of these highlighted. Use my arrow keys to just move them to what looks like center. This is not rocket science. It does not have to be perfect. If you want it to be perfect, maybe Google finding the option to align to the artboard. If one of you guys know how to do that, please leave it in the comment section below, because I would love to know how to do that for future references. All right, so now that I have them all where I want them to go, you know, just distributed right and then aligned center, I want them all to be on one layer so that I can use the gradient tool. So I'm going to come over here and click on the more options, and I'm going to click on merge layers. So it's going to highlight all of the merge layers. And now all of these are on one layer, so you can see if I want to move them, they're all going to move together because now it's all one piece. And then, let me see, lift this up just a little bit. And then I want to get my gradient tool over here. So with the gradients, what I want is a black and a white, and it is on a black and a white here. You can see when I click on this, it's going to show me all these different options that I could choose. I could choose color if I want. I could use like a white to a transparent, something like that. But what I wanted was a black to a white. But let's say you wanted to make this a different color or to change one of these, all you have to do is come down to this bottom square and then change the color, and you can make it however you want. And if you want to change the opacity, just go to the top, and then you can scroll down and you can change the opacity there. So that is how you can change the colors on these if you want. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel, and I'm going to come up here and make sure that I've got the black and the white selected, because that is how I want it to look. But like I said, if you wanted to make this a different color or make it more white than black, let's say this right here is all white for you, you may, excuse me, the background is all black, you may want it to go white to black. You may want it to look a little bit different. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Well, the first thing I want to do is make sure that I create a new layer. I'm going to start at the bottom, and then I'm going to scroll up and then let go. And so you can see I've got this black to white gradient, and it's concentrated to about midway where I let go. So you can see if I go to the bottom to the top, then there's going to be more gray in the middle and less gray at the top. But I want it to be more in the middle there. And when I click back, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let go of this eyeball so you can't see the gradient layer anymore. When I click back on it, you can see that there's no change that was made. I just created this gradient layer, and what I want to do is I want to mask the text into it. So I'm going to come over here where I've got my more options, and I'm going to hit create clipping mask. And I was on the wrong thing, sorry. So Control or Command Z. This really depends on what layer you're on. So make sure you're on the gradient layer when you do this, and the gradient is right above the text layer. Hit create clipping mask, and you can see now that it has clipped the gradient into the text file. So, or the text layer. So now I'm just gonna play with this a little bit more. And I think that's good. You can see as I shorten it, it's gonna have more white at the top, and as I lengthen it, the more white's gonna be at the bottom there, or more white's gonna be at the top. Well, hopefully that made sense because I said the same thing, but I did explain it earlier, how the longer you make this gradient, the more white is gonna be up here and the more grays are gonna be in the middle. So I think that's good because I kind of want it to fade out there. And let's see, I actually might want to move this. So I'm going to click on this layer here, the text layer, go to my move tool, and I'm just going to move this down a little bit because I might want a little bit of space up here. I'm just thinking, kind of get rid of that there. Okay, so I really like the way this looks. I like right here. Can you see how it kind of is? That gradient is almost the exact same color of gray. Now this is very serendipitous. Unless you're using an image with, you know, this kind of a gray, you might not be able to create this, but I like that this type is almost the exact same color as the background. And I love this here. Well, not love this. As you can see right here, it's starting to turn into white right there. So you can kind of see those letters. Now, if you did want to create something like this, but you don't, like, let's say you don't have like grays in your image, you may have a different color. What you could probably do, now I haven't done this, but what you could probably do is go to the gradient tool, and you could when you click on this, you could sample the gray here as your top color. So let me Controller Command Z. So this is still black. Instead of it being white, you could change your color to, like, let's say this gray color. And then that way, and like I said, let's say that it was like maybe you're working with blues or greens. That way it's going to fade out to that color, and then you're going to get a little bit more of this feel. So I hope that makes sense. So the one thing that I don't love right here is that you can see the white peeking through because this gray is not the same gray all the way across. So I am going to change that a little bit. I'm going to get the erase tool, and I am just going to erase this layer here because I don't think you're going to notice at all, based on what I'm seeing here, that it changes. Now I'm going to do that maybe just a little bit better. So I'm not going all the way down, but I just want to get rid of the white there. So I really like the way that looks, that it's just kind of fading out into nothing. And so that is what is going to be my main layer for my page. So this is what I'm going to print out. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to have a 3x8 journaling card next to it. Surprise, surprise, right? Got to get my journaling in there. And I was looking at, now I'm going to come back to some of Allie's files here. I was looking at these shapes here, and I was looking at some of the sentiments of these chipboard shapes. And I really like this one that says, here's the story. So I was thinking, you know, I could just print this out and put this at the top of my journaling, right? But I love the idea of my journaling having some direction. So I'm actually going to create a triangle, and I'm going to put this file right on top of it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's as if this file, here's the story, is going to look like a diagonal, and I'll show you how I am going to create that. So the first thing that I want to do is create a new file that is going to be a 3x8 because I want to use the 3x8 to make sure that I get the triangle the exact shape that I want. So I already have a 3x8 already a custom. If not, just enter it in here and hit create. So now what I want to do is I'm actually going to pull over this file because I want to snag this blue color right here. All right, so what I need to do next is get my rectangle tool so I can make the triangle that I would like. And when I click and drag, you can see that I've got this pretty average looking triangle where all these angles are the exact same, but I want it to look a little bit more, instead of where all these are even, I want the tops to be pretty tight and then the bottom angle to be pretty wide so that it kind of has this long triangle look. And so I'm going to have to make that polygon one more time. And the way I'm going to do it, now where I can change some of my settings is just to go ahead and just click right on to the file. And then it's going to give me my settings here. So the width is going to be I'm going to keep it at 100, and I'm going to change the height to 250 because I think that is probably a good ratio there. I want the number of sides to be 3 because I do want it to be a triangle, and then I'm going to click OK. So you can see that it kind of created this triangle that is a little bit more shallow. I guess that's the word that I was going for instead of like straight up and down. So what I'm going to do is I am going to change, we want to change the color. Right now it's got a black stroke, but I want to change no stroke and change the fill here. So I want to, if I come up here to fill, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm just going to make it any color because I want to make sure not to lose this image, because sometimes I end up losing the image, right? I'm going to sample, get the eyedropper and sample this blue color. So now I've got my blue color over here. And then I'm going to come back to this triangle, come up here to the stroke, put in no stroke, put in this, see right here, this recent color. This is my recent color of blues, and put in the blue color there. So now I've got this triangle that is the same color as this blue from Allie's file. So now I need to put it in the top corner, and I need to change it so it's pointing down. So I'm going to hit Command or Control T to get the transform tool. And first I'm going to rotate it. So if I just rotate it like this, it's really hard to make sure that I get like 90 degrees. But if you hit the shift, then it will rotate. And I don't know what the increments are, but I thought it was 45, but it looks like it's not quite 45 degrees, but it makes it so you can get the exact measurement you want. Now I'm going to put it in the top corner here. Then I'm going to hit shift and I'm going to drag until you can see I've got the measurements there. I want it to say 3 inches. And so right there it said 3 inches, and then I'm going to click off it and then hit enter. So I know that exactly 3 inches across. So now I want to add this file right on top. There's a couple things. Obviously, I need the text to show, so I need to move Allie's text above the polygon or above the triangle, but I've got these arrows here. Now I know there's probably a couple ways to fix this, but the way I'm going to do it is just to use the marquee tool. So I'm using the marquee tool, and I'm going to Control plus. I want to get close to this, and I'm hitting the shift to give me this hand. And I'm going to hit Control D to start that over again, because I want this to be close, but I don't want it to eclipse any of that type. So that is good there. I'm going to hit Control C to copy that, and then I'm going to hit Control V. Now it doesn't look like anything happened, and that's because it copied right on top of this file here. So what I need to do is just click and drag, and you can see the copy there. So now I can put it wherever I want. You can see that it's, you know, trying to help me put it right in the center. So the center of this file is in the center of that file. So I like the way that looks there. And so what I can do is I can highlight this file of Allie's and just delete it. And now I'm going to pull out so you can see what it looks like. So this is how I've gone ahead and changed the shape of this file that came in Allie's kits. Like I said, there's probably multiple ways to do it, but this is the way that I chose to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and print this onto Vellum, and then I will write my journaling and print my journaling separately on a white piece of paper, and then I'll be able to put both of these files together. So hopefully that makes sense. Another thing that I think would be really cool to do here is actually to take this file into the Silhouette program and then cut out the words so that it would be kind of a cutout. That's actually another option that you could do as well. That "the" is actually pretty small, so I don't know if it would cut very well, but maybe if you were working with a larger image or photo or something, that could work really cool. So I don't know, just an option there for you. And that is the file. That's my 3x8 file, and then this is going to be my 6x8 file that they will then be side by side. So before I leave you, I just wanted to show you what this looks like. So you can see I've got my 3x8 with the journaling and the date at the bottom, and then the triangle at the top, and then my 6x8 all printed out. You can see how great it looks printed out. And then I've got another chipboard, the Thankful for You heart that I printed out. That, and also the Here's the Story triangle, I printed those both on Vellum, so they have more of a see-through element, which I really love here. The Here's the Story store, I went ahead and stapled on, but the Thankful for You was just too far from the edge, so I wasn't able to do that. I also added a small little wood veneer heart. I felt like it needed a little something, a little dimension, so I just added that there, and I am completely done with this spread. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you have any questions about what I did in Photoshop, like I missed a step or something, please ask them in the comment section below, and I will definitely get to them. All right, you guys, we will see you in the next one. Bye.